What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of New Orleans Basketball. I am your host, Rafael Rattler, joined by my fellow middle brother, Garrett G. Rattler. What is popping with you today?
What up, bro? Man, it's the air in the city feel a little, feel a little lighter nowadays. And listen, man, I have been to a lot of Pelicans games. I have done whether it was on the media side or when I was working as the retail president and the retail leader, and I did all of that years and years and years. I told you the game against the Hawks this season, right before the Saints played the Falcons, was one of the most electric and one of the most like insane games I've ever been in the Smoothie King Center. The team was not good, but it was loud and it was violent in there as far as like the chance between the two cities and the two fan bases. But let me tell you something, bro. Yesterday, I tweeted this out, so I'm gonna just go ahead and say it up front. You would like to, of course, every basketball team and every business wants to have as many people consuming the business, the product, or being at the games in this sense, right? You would love to have a full packed house night in and night out. You have work to do there in order to get there.
Right.
But like I said in the crowds be damn, bro. And I told you this before the game started yesterday. When the games are close and like the crowd and the fan base and everything has a reason to like be invested in the game, bro. The Smoothie King Center is a freaking madhouse. I just tell everybody, look at if you weren't around during those times, go look at those playoff series against the Suns.
The FJ Crowder,
yeah, the FJ Crowder. This city understands and recognizes winning. That is what they do. The same fans who pack those ridiculous stands during the Drew Brees era when they were smacking the back of the wall, you could barely hear anything.
Jimmy Graham dug it off field goal post.
Those same people live in the city, and they will come and like you said, if you build it, they will come. And yesterday, man, it was like a switch. That first half, the whole Smoothie King Center and the team were sleepwalking. But man, that second half, and we'll talk about it, the Smoothie King Center was rocking, bro. It was insane. So I'm just glad to have been. I've been in the building for the Pelicans, the two franchise tie-in comeback wins last year versus the Jazz on election night, and then this last night against the Rockets. I'm just grateful to be in the building during those things, during those experiences. But I just want to give a hat tip to the Smoothie King Center last night in that second half, man. It felt like a playoff game in there. Like people were yelling and screaming and slapping the chairs and just excited to see competitive basketball and the Pelicans executing in competitive basketball. So I just wanted to get on my soapbox a little bit, talk about the crowd size and about people yesterday. That was an invested crowd, and I think that is that is how you get on the floor and you put on for the city and you get people to come to the game. So outside of that, bro, I'm good. Everything's all good on this side. Our rivals kicking off. I will be in Miami to go to a rival game. Can't wait for it. But I'm all good on this side. How's everything on your side, bro?
Everything is blessed. We're just getting over the injury bug at home too, the sick bug. We're swinging back on that regard. But yeah, Garrett. Before we get into it, because we got to get into it, make sure you go follow us on X, on Twitter, on IG, on TikTok. That's No Basketball No E. Make sure you're liking the episode below and make sure you subscribe to the channel. So I'm just gonna pick up where you left off when it comes to the Smoothie King Center and what the Pelicans did yesterday. You don't want to overreact to a game in December when the Pelicans are 6-22 now, and things like that. But there's a bigger domino. I feel like there's a bigger edge in terms of how you won the game yesterday. I don't think it was a coincidence that after the game, Trey Murphy was asked about the Smoothie King Center and asked about how did it feel for the fans to be with you guys in that comeback? And damn it, Garrick, he had to catch himself because he pounded on the table and had to catch himself and say, hey, I'm about to curse out. Because I know because Trey was a part of that a Phoenix Suns series with Brandon Ingram and no Zion was available there. But he was a part of that playoff experience where he felt the Smoothie King Center turn into something that like he just hasn't been a part of since then. The rest of the team, you got to remember, most of the team is new, wasn't around during that. And so he knows the difference between what you're seeing so far this season and what the potential could be. And he's like, that's it right there. And don't give up on us. We're trying to put a better product together and things like that. But he knows, and as a leader of the team, we keep going back to this, that this is a new team in the sense of the pieces are being formed together, but also a younger team where most of the vets haven't been around. I mean, Kevon Looney and Jordan Poole have won championships, but they're 29. Like, it's not like they're 30. Kevin Durant was on the floor yesterday, who's been to multiple championships and played for almost 20 years, right? Like, the Pelicans have no one like that on the Sadiq Bey, who was going shot for shot, is 26. So, like, they don't have anyone who's got a lot of seasoning in their skillet, right? Like, they don't have a lot of that. And so figuring out on the fly as a group of young players who are around the same age, I think that's going to take time. But also you get to see moments like yesterday come together and say, that's why you believe, right? That's why you think this together, because we've gone through this before and we won together. Prior to early in the season, they ain't gone through shit together. Like they're kind of figuring each other out and figuring out. Derek Queen's like, I ain't been through none of this. Like they're trying to figure these things out. And so in a game like last night, where you get down, you come into the game with some momentum, been playing well, finally get to play a team that's, going somewhere this season, and you get punched in the mouth early to start the game. James Borrego himself, and trust me, we'll get to him. He talked about they brought in a NOPD, and shout out to our late uncle Sniper to come speak to the team and talk about resiliency and what that means to the city and what it means to embody that prior to the city. So James Borrego, in his post-game presser, in his post-game locker room speech, talked to that's the type of team that the city wants to see and the city can gravitate toward. The team that, you don't want to get down 25, but you want to fight back. You want to punch back. You want to know that you're never out of the game. That's what Pelicans fans have been looking for. The results be damned, the wins be damned. Of course you want to win, but you want to know that your team is going to never bow down, go figure on any given night, regardless of who the opponent is, regardless of what the scoreboard is, whatever it is. And the fight they showed yesterday is something you build upon. It's something you say, okay, as a team, we've been through it versus some of the better teams. Now let's push forward from here. Like we talked about before the game, we were just kind of looking at the schedule and saying, hey, the rest of December is, not necessarily guaranteed wins, but it's more feasible than the beginning of the season, right? And things like that. And you say, but this Houston one's going to be tough. But if you win it, it's the type of game that can springboard it, and how they won it in more ways than one impacts that so many ways. So the Pelicans tied their largest comeback in franchise history. Last year, they had a similar win versus the Jazz, go figure, or that team from Utah, I should call it, so go figure. But down 25, KD can't miss a shot. Like he looked like he's playing on rookie, like my son in 2K. And he can't miss a shot. His entire window is green. Like it doesn't matter what Herb doing. He guards your yard, guard other people's yard. It doesn't matter. He is unstoppable in the first half, and things look tough. And Garrick, James Borrego does something in the second half. Never mind the fact that the Pelicans actually win the third quarter, and KD talks about it after the game, and it's like they beat us and punched us in the mouth in the third quarter. I'm like, the Pelicans? Never mind that. But how James Borrego got the team to respond, Garrick? Like, how long have we been talking about the Pelicans team feel like they're getting punked and never like punching back? and he gets the team to respond, and he does it in a way where everyone's gonna make the highlight or gonna make the headliner. Zion sits on the bench, but like if you're really like a hoops watcher and you're really a sports watcher, he played the hot hand. He played the hot team. Trey Murphy was on the bench longer than he had 27 points in the game because he had found a group that was working. And what do we say? By hook or by crook, you were getting crushed on the boards. That it didn't look great, but you found some momentum and you stuck with it and you kept working with it all the way. If they lose that game, you're not talking about, oh, is Zion done with the Pelicans? You're talking about what was James Borrego doing, starting Jose Alvarado over Zion to close the game, things like that. But he didn't, Garrick. They won the game, and they won it as a group effort. Obviously, Saddiq Bey has a huge game. But give me your thoughts on James Borrego in this situation. Give me your thoughts on the Pelicans and the overall win.
Yeah, I think you can literally look at like players on the team and look at their first half and second half and look at the story of the resilience, right? You talk about, coming out in the third quarter. Herb Jones had an awful first half, right? Like they were leaving him open. They were letting him shoot, and he was bricking them, right? And it just wasn't. He had a bad foul going into half. Like there's just a lot of things that he wasn't doing right? And you could look at the scoreboard, and obviously it wasn't all on Herb. There was a lot of people not playing well, but that's like a microcosm, right? Like you take a snapshot of Herb and you say, okay, he wasn't playing well, and the team wasn't playing well, and Zion wasn't aggressive, and all of these other different things that were going on. And then you flip over to that second half, that third quarter, and it's led by Herb Jones coming out of the half like gangbusters, fighting over screens, playing defense as hard as he can, and then getting in transition, getting to the rim, and stop settling and letting teams, live with him just shooting 3 after 3. Of course, he still made a couple threes, but he got himself going in transition, and that starts from the defensive side, right? And so when you see Herb lead the charge, coming out, fighting like hell on both sides of the ball, and then, you got a guy in Jose who doesn't need anything to put that battery in his back. Right. But if he got Herb Jones up there flying left and right, up and down the floor, then he starts getting chippy and getting into, defenders. And listen, God bless Jose Alvarado, because there were a couple of times I was looking on the floor like, man, I know Jose is like, bro, who are all of these goddamn trees? It looked like
he was trying. He was fighting.
But he was fighting, and he was getting out there. He was running, and when you get two guys, and again, it's almost beautiful poetry that is Herb and Jose kind of spearheading this, because we've known that we've talked about who can light the Smoothie King Center up, right? Zion with his dunks, Trey Murphy with his shooting, Herb Jones with his defense, right? Getting 8 steals, those type of things. And Jose Alvarado. Jose checks in. It could be silent as a mouse in the first quarter. Jose checks in and the entire arena erupts, because that's just the type of person that he is, and they know what he's going to bring. He does the exact same thing that you know that he does, and what he brings on a night-to-night basis, comes in and does the same exact thing. And it's Saddiq Bey, Raph. First of all, Saddiq Bey, not only does he have the name of an R&B artist, but he looked like an old school soul. Like, you tell me he 26, I'm like, bro, ain't no way. That dude is at least 35, 36. You know what I'm saying? He was back in the House of Blues days, going see Raphael Sadiq and Music Soul Child. He got the like old school dad,
and the voice too,
and a voice, right? Yeah. He got that James Earl Ray, that Lion King voice. That dude. That we talked about this coming into this season, and you mentioned it about like how Saddiq Bey, like if you look at some of these NBA pundits at the end of the season and you're like, okay, what acquisition, under the radar acquisition was that really did something for the team when they acquired him? And Saddiq Bey he is the most hand in glove fit a free agent I think the Pelicans have signed in a long, long time. Like, it's not just his shooting, it's the toughness. It's the even kill. It's I've been there before. I know, what I need to do in this situation. And it's the IQ. He's a shooter, but he's not just a shooter. He knows when a team needs a bucket, you have to go and exploit whatever mismatch you can. He's down in the paint, putting Reed Shepherd, whoever it is, in a blender, right? Shout out to the Smoothie King Center, putting him in the blender and getting the shots that he needs. And in the second half, in that fourth quarter, I mean, he was the catalyst, the offensive catalyst, and Herb was the defensive catalyst. And that leads me to the rotations, right? Hey man, James Borrego got some cojones, man. He got some cojones, because you are, it takes a lot for a coach, and we've talked about this and with Willie Green, and shout out to Willie Green. He had his Anscape article dropped today. They interviewed him, and he's going to be giving out food this Saturday to the community, to New Orleans. So shout out to Willie Green for that. I mean, that is an incredible thing for he and his family to do, to still do that for the city. He also confirmed that he know that David Griffin tried to fire him, but shout out to him. But we've been asking Willie Green for a long time, just if a group is working, let them play, because when you're rolling, and you've played sports, and people who play sports, when you get kind of a thing going, you really don't need timeouts. You don't want the game to stop, because like when it's rolling, the kids call it flow state. When you get in the flow state, it's hard to get out of that when you have the guys to sit down. And for James Borrego to look Zion in the face and look some of those
Jordan Poole,
look those guys in the face and say, hey, listen, these are the guys that got us here in the third quarter, and I'm going to reward that. And I see, Terry talking about motivating Zion, like motivate the whole team. Like this team hasn't won anything, Zion included, to just be given, you know what I'm saying? Like just to be given things, even if like that isn't working, right? It's not like Jokic. If Jokic is having a bad night, then like you have to keep him in, because like what Jokic has done. He has done same thing with Giannis and LeBron and all of that. This is a new coach with a team that hasn't done anything, and he's trying to establish accountability. He's trying to establish like rotations. He's trying to establish all of those things. And when you can look at those starters and those players who make all this money and need to be playing, but like aren't giving it to you that night, and say, hey, listen, these are the guys that got us there, and like they're gonna take us home. That as bad as it looks on the bench, and when you see Jordan Poole and Zion and Jeremiah Fitz on the bench, I guarantee you those guys will be like, I respect it. Like, I respect that. And you win the trust of the guys that you leave in, because they know if I play hard, if I do the right things, then I have an opportunity to close a game that I helped get us back in. And so I just think that second half was I call it impressively resilient, because that is the type of game that you win, and it obviously it's on the scoreboard, and I mean, and your win record, and like you said, it can springboard you. But that's the type of win that you go to your team after all the cameras are going off and say proof of concept. Everybody lock in. This is what we can do, right? And this is how we can pull ourselves up out of any situation moving forward this season. So listen, again, it's a game before Christmas, right? You don't want to say, hey, the Pelicans are going to win a championship, but these are the type of games that you have to find ways to win, by hook or by crook, by 1 point, by 10 points, whatever the case is. And I think in this 3-game stretch, including last night, you're seeing the Pelicans win in a multitude of different ways, but running away with games, winning close games, Raph. I mean, without DeJounte Murray, who was supposed to be here to do it. Like, these are wins that you just could not get earlier in the season, and a lot of times last season. And so as this team gets healthy, it gets more familiar with James Borrego, I think they're finding their footing. And I think this is the type of win that you can return as a proof of concept and get your guys to buy in and move forward, moving on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, the oldest person on the court for the Pelicans was Jose Alvarado at 27. Right, when you think of playoff teams, when you think of good teams, typically you have to go through things. You have to lose in a certain way. You have to figure out who you are as a team and how you're going to respond to that next time. And so like games like this is hard for young teams because they haven't been through that. So they don't know what the response is. And for a team that's trying to figure it out on the fly, you brought a really good point with James Borrego and them earning their respect. but more so, I think he's earning their trust. How many times? I think James Borrego won this game. Sadiq Bey played incredible. Trey Murphy played incredible. I think James Borrego won this game, not just by the substitutions. You mentioned, having a shorter leash with some players who don't have it going. I'm gonna go the opposite direction, Garrick. He has been able to press buttons on the Pelicans rookies that you haven't seen in decades. As far as the Pelicans teams, like Stan Van Gundy, like Alvin Gentry, like it doesn't matter. Willie Green, like everyone struggled to really know how to manage their rookies, and none of them had rookies like this outside of Zion. None of them had rookies like this that any given night they can give you 30 or 20 or 25. That's hard to balance when they're young and they're like, yo, but I can do this even though I struggle. The way that he was able to sit Derek Queen down earlier and try Carlo and try Ease because DQ was having a lot of turnovers. He was struggling a little bit versus Alpi, things like that. But then bring him back in the game once he gets a little bit of a rhythm and leave him on the floor and know that, hey, it's gonna be you, right? There's no other help coming from anywhere else. It's gonna be you, and you gotta own your own. And for him to trust a rookie in that situation and then play him all OT as well, like that takes good coaching too. And so you build trust. It's not just respect. You build trust within your team to say, I know that the leader of the captain of our ship is going to put us in the right positions to win. Because I think that there's been a little bit of that being frayed from the Pelicans roster and the leadership prior to that. Hey, we got to use our talent to win because we don't necessarily know if we're going to win because of the coaching, right? And I think James Borrego last night did a great job of willing them to a win and gaining trust along the way. I see the comments as well talking about, coach trying to motivate Z and things like that. I think a common misconception about Zion is that, like, he's the typical superstar. I don't think he is at all. We've talked about before, like, yeah, the injuries put aside, we're just talking about talent here. Zion plays unselfish to a fault sometimes, where he is not looking to force the issue no matter what. Like, when was the last time Alpi Shagun had 26 shots? When was the last game Zion had 26 shots? That doesn't happen, right? And so for a player like Zion, who he keeps saying, I want to win, and everything is kind of pointing toward that direction now, you talk about proof of concept. Some of it is proof of concept to him. It could be one and the same, right? Like, hey, we have built a team like we talked about on last episode, and like Joe Dumars talked about as soon as he sat down in the job and said, we want to build a team that's sustainable with Zion, without Zion, right? Something that can continue to win and that can be flexible in different ways. That was a proof of concept, Derek. Zion was available, didn't have it going. James Borrego says, you know what? These guys got it going. I don't think it's about Zion. I think it's about what the team needs to win on that given night. And to get to a point where you're playing versus, again, one of the best players that ever touch a basketball and one of the best teams in the league so far this year. The Rockets were third in defense last night. Zion had 9 points, had his worst game of the season, and the Pelicans scored 133 in OT. Like, those are the type of wins that you put underneath your belt. And Trey Murphy, he said it best after the game, and it went kind of like unnoticed. But when he was asked about, the spirit and the fight that James Borrego has, he's like, we gravitate to that, right? He's got a fight about him that pushes us. And then he slipped it in. He is a coach that we want to win for, right? We talked about this on previous. There is a difference between a coach you respect and a coach you want to win because, right? You want to win because he motivates you to be the best version of yourself. He motivates your team to play as the best version of yourself. When that button clicks, Garrett, you turn into a different team. Like, there's a reason why Steph Curry has that allegiance to Steve Kerr, right? That there's a commercial about him talking about, I played for the same coach, because he knows that in the right moments, he's going to trust his coach to put him in the best position to win. I don't think the Pelicans have felt that for some time. And the fact that this game was a small snapshot, I think this is something you build and grow on. Now, as far as the Smoothie King Center goes, listen, I keep going back to OKC just because they're the cream of the crop, the best team in the league. the best run organization, best GM, best player, all that stuff, right? But another thing that people talk about when it comes to OKC is their fan base, right? And how they pack out the stadium every night. It's the only, professional team in Oklahoma. I know a lot of people in Oklahoma, spend a lot of time there. Great people. They love their area. They love their community. Obviously, they love their Thunder. But Garrick, there is a difference between Oklahoma City and New Orleans. If you get the people in New Orleans to have a winner to play behind, the Smoothie King Center can turn into an advantage for the team. Like, I understand everyone shows the clips, relocate the team. No one's in the rafter. No one's in the third row. If you look at some of these other teams, the Clippers have got a brand new stadium and need to pay it out. It's empty in there too. Nobody wants
the toilet bowl is empty. Ooh.
Yeah, nobody wants to support.
I do you one better. Chicago is a historic team, a historic city with way more people than New Orleans. And when you watch that Bulls game, I mean, I text you, it was like, hey man, it's a little empty in that United Center.
Right. And so, like, if you give a team and a fan base and a culture like New Orleans a winner to support, you'll be amazed about what I remember during that. And I keep going back to that Sun series just because that's the last time the Pelicans were in meaningful basketball games. They were having to censor the NBA broadcast because of things being said in the Smoothie King Center.
Yeah,
and like that. Something quiet is kept. And Trey talked about it a little bit after the game. The Rockets were chirping. Ime Udoka has been known to get into it with players, and I'm sure his coaching staff probably resembles their head coach in a lot of ways. But they were talking, right? Like DQ got his stuff grabbed, was it celebrity blocked in 2K by Amen Thompson to start the game. He just grabbed it from him, and you heard it in the mics that are attached to the rim that was like not that right. He kept talking. Garrick, like, what have we been talking about for this team? Like, there are a bunch of nice guys. They're well-mannered, come from good homes, good families, and, they try to play the right way and do the right thing. But I think it's good to have a little Derek Queen, a little Jeremiah Fears that push the envelope because, again, if you tie that to the city of New Orleans that plays with that edge, I think that helps you through it all together, right? And so, for James Borrego to collect all those guys, you talk about Herb Jones and what he did in the first half. Listen, I think the biggest difference, and again, I'm not trying to knock Herb Jones or downplay his performance because it was incredible, was that they went from guard your yard in the first half to anyone but KD in the second half. And look at the difference, right? Like they started.
KD had like 4 turnovers back to back because they just kept doubling him from every position. And I swear, I felt like Killmonger at the end of Black Panther. Just, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It was beautiful.
And Garrick, who was the person doubling and where were Derek Queen, the youngest person on the court, is at half court and like, look, Steven Adams, if you gonna beat us, score 20 points in the pace, then we just gonna lose. And sure enough, KD was flustered. He would, after going off in the first half. Those are the type of things that you've been waiting for this Pelicans team to do. Understand who's on the court, understand who's going off, understand the guys you're willing to live with, and things like that. So it was just a collective effort that I think, again, you can springboard with, you can grow from. Go ahead.
And no, just to your point about like knowing, like having Steven Adams be the guy to beat you. I told you, I saw it in that Chicago game. And I told you, it was one of the things that I spotted, and I was like, that's somebody who is being coached, because they did the same thing with Isaac Okoro, kept passing the ball to Isaac Okoro, and he hit 2. And instead of freaking out and going away from the game plan and running out there and contesting him and giving up rebounds and all that, the next time they went to him, Derek Queen kind of stinted, and then he went back to look for the board. Okoro missed. We going the other way. Know your personnel. It's a very simple term. You hear it a lot, but having a coach who understands that and understands the how important it is to know that part and to have that be drilled into the team over and over again. I think that's part of the breath of fresh air too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like you talk about the Sadiq Trey acquisition. At one point in time, the Pelicans were getting killed for the Derek Queen. And now people are like, taking some back from that.
You almost at pick 7. I'm just saying, yeah, you're almost at pick 7. Just keep winning that pick gonna keep going down.
You know what else people were killing the Pelicans for? The trade with Jordan Poole and sending CJ McCollum to Washington. Sadiq Bey was in that trade. I called that the acquisition of Sadiq Bey being one of the most unsung moves of the season. Obviously, the Pelicans are 6-22, so they need to win some more games in order to make that true. But it's not just because like Jordan Poole, I think, is an upgrade from the Pelicans in terms of what they needed as a team. Jordan Poole played the exact role Jordan Poole was brought in to play yesterday. Yes, he didn't close the game. He played the 6-man role when they got it going, and he hit 2 huge threes, and one was a 4-point play. You got it going, you play him. When you don't got it going, come sit next to me. That's exactly what he was brought in to be, and that's what he played. But for Sadiq Bey to be the throw-in in that trade, you can't tell me the Pels didn't crush the Wizards in that trade. I guess they're going to try to move CJ McCollum for cap relief somewhere. I don't know from that standpoint. Another thing, the last thing from that game, I don't know if you noticed, Garrett, Trey Murphy's activity has been at an all-time high. We talk about the dunks. We talk about the rebounding, his willingness. Obviously, there's still more to be done on the defensive end, but his willingness to get in the passing lanes. But he was hitting the home run shots, Garrick. And how many years have we talked about Trey Murphy? That one that sends you over the top, that one that ties the game, that one that sends you up 3. Those shots have always been the ones that have eluded Trey. Last night, he hit them, bro. He hit the ones you need. And so you could almost feel like that burden of get relief from Trey as well. And so I just think it was an overall collective performance that you can continue to grow from, you can continue to learn from, you can continue to make your roster believe that you can come back. And again, the games in front of you, you got the Pacers, the Mavs, Cleveland's railing. Like, there's a lot of games in front of you can really put something together. Now, we talked last episode about the lack of defense and the issues there. And again, it got him in trouble in the first half when it was guard your yard, Herb, go be a superhero, things like that. What we didn't spend enough time on, Garrett, is that the Pelicans offense is real, Garrett. Like Sadiq Bey had a great game last night, but there was nothing about what Sadiq Bey did that made you feel like he had some superhuman night. Like a lot of the shots were catch and shoot threes. A lot of the shots were at the rim. A lot of the shots were got his mismatch on the block. Like it wasn't he's hitting fall away out of bounds off the. It wasn't
having an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like that. And so you look at those things, you look at the offense and say, again, Houston's one of the best defensive teams in the league, and you go put 133 on it when your best player has 9 points. But the Pels are 9th rate in offensive rating over the last 10 games. They're 28th in 3 points attempted. So not only are they bucking the trend, but they're doing so in a way where, again, DeJounte Murray's not back. and Zion's still, figuring out, getting his rhythm and getting back from injury and things like that. They're winning with pace. They're the 10th race team in place. They're using the Jeremiah Fears floor of 6 points a game just by being faster than anyone on the other side of the court. Like a couple of times he caught Reed Shepard in the Dion back pedal, and it was like, what are you going to do with that, right? And of course, the spin move that he goes to, he's learning counters from his angle. And so my question to you is like, okay, the narrative, obviously, after a win like that is going to be, okay, is the Zion era over? Equal opportunity offense. Anyone can get it any single night. Is that sustainable? Because, if you look at the best teams in the league, they all got the guy. Their queen is growing. Jeremiah Fears is growing. Trey Murphy is growing. Herb Jones is getting more comfortable, things like that. But none of those guys are in that conversation from that thing. So what are your thoughts on that? As far as the offense being it could be you tonight, it could be you tonight. But do you think it still needs to be a heliocentric guy in there somewhere?
What up, West Bank? Rick, what up, Trayvon? Appreciate y'all being here during this early stream. Yeah, that's I think that's the $1 million question. Again, I think the Pelicans I've been using the word unique with the Pelicans for here we go again. I think the Pelicans with James Borrego at the helm and this particular roster, this is one of those times, this is one of those rosters where this is going to be a game by game thing. I think if I personally would love to see Zion just turn into get back to some of that other stuff we saw before where he was 30 points on 10 shots, 11 shots, things like that. But I've always told you, and we've talked about this, that I just don't think that's like one of my goals this season on our preseason podcast was that Zion should go into this season and try to lead the team in shots, right? That was before everything went down. Obviously, that was before game one. And it was because I think that he's such a talent that and he's so efficient that if he tried to do that, he could get to some of those minutes in other those things. And I still think that you have to like the best of the like even the teams like you talk about not shooting a lot of threes and still being in the top 10 in offense. Houston is like that and Detroit is like that. They both don't shoot a ton of threes, but they are like top 10 in offense. And it's because you have Cade Cunningham on one side kind of doing his thing and being the engine. And in the Rockets, you have Durant and you have Şengün. Like you have some of these ace players that can get offense going, right? And then you, like you said, you look at the Pelicans last night, you're like, okay, all right, Trey Murphy did his thing. Wait, who? Saddiq Bey had okay, and then it was Herb had 18. So it's like a lot of different, a lot of guys going in. And so I do think that like there is something to when the money is on the line, when the defense is at its highest, when you playing OKC and you playing some of these other defenses where they're gonna be comfortable letting Herb shoot 8 shots, and maybe Saddiq Bey isn't going that crazy, but like they okay with leaving Saddiq Bey. Obviously, he burned Houston last night. But like maybe he doesn't have it. Like you're gonna need somebody to say, okay, look, here's the thing, here's the ball, I can go get you 2. The thing about it is that like the Pelicans right now have like I would say like 1, I would say 2, but it come with like Zion and then like Trey can do it in stints, and obviously we've seen Derek Queen kind of keep the offense afloat, and Jeremiah Fears has had his. So I think this season, getting through this season, I think it's going to be a game by game basis, and I think you're starting to see like James Borrego kind of buy into that, and you see like it's the amount of money and amount of points that you're putting on the board on a nightly basis. Some nights it's Jeremiah Fears, some nights it's Derek Queen. Obviously, Trey is like the through line. He's been playing out of his freaking mind these past couple of games, and so like he's the through line, but like if someone else gets in there. But I think if listen, he's back, he's playing. If you can get Zion to be, because he can fit into this offense, like he can fit into this offense, and
Zion is a very smart player. He could probably play in any offense,
right? And so if you can get him to be some of that heliocentric, and I don't mean like give him the ball and he's the one who's scoring, but he could open up a lot more. We've seen Trey Murphy pretty much unlock his game now that he's more of a play finisher, right? Now, like that's where a lot of his point. Saddiq Bey isn't taking anybody off of an ISO at the top of the key with 24 seconds left on the clock. That's not what he's doing. He's catching, he's floating around the 3-point line, he's catching, and he's shooting, right? Guys are just more comfortable stepping up and stepping in the shots because they know that in this offense, everybody is moving, everybody is available, and everybody's empowered to take the shots. And so can it sustain? I think it absolutely can sustain this year and to win game. I think it's going to be a game in and game out basis. Who's got it going like we saw last night. But I do think if you are trying to get to the next level and you are trying to be a playoff competitive team, and therefore eventually a championship contending team. And again, you can laugh at it right now, but people were laughing at Detroit the year before last, and look at them now, number 1 in the East after taking their step. So it can change like that. Like it can change like that. Everybody talking about OKC is the cream of the crop. How do you think OKC got Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and Case and Wallace? Because
no one talks about them years. No one
they don't talk about them years. They were garbage them years, and then eventually they got it all together. You can be competitive in this season and figure out what you have in all of these guys moving forward. But I think if you want to become the next step, like I see in the comments, I think you have to. History tells us that you have to have one of those guys. I think you saw like the Pacers kind of make a magical run out of it and get to the finals with kind of like Tyrese Halliburton is the drink stirrer, and then you had Pascal Siakam, but like one night it was Aaron Nesmith, one night it was Andrew Nembhard, one night is Miles Turner. Like you saw them make that kind of run. So like I'm not saying it's impossible, but history tells us like you need a LeBron, a Giannis, a Luka, a Jokic. Like you need those kind of guys in order to get to, Tatum, to get to where you want to go. And so I do think this offense is sustainable, but I would like to see Zion and to be, placed into this offense and to be a part of the offense and be the force that he is while not, sacrificing anything. Because I think it's possible, especially with a guy like James Borrego at the helm.
Here's what I'll say when it goes to, and because two of your better players are rookies, and so they're gonna have lulls, like they're gonna have down games, a couple of bad games on the road, things like that. I do think the offense that he's built is sustainable because a lot of the pieces can play off one another, right? They all can get to the rim for the most part, and they're all pretty good athletes from that standpoint, so they can adjust themselves on each other. But what did we talk about a couple pods ago? The reason why the Pelicans started 1-1,000 with the season is because they had a lot of their role players available, but the main hubs, like you didn't figure out Derek Queen was Derek Queen until like 10 games ago, right? Things like that. And Zion was unavailable, and DeJounte's been a lot of the main hubs weren't there. So you had a lot of secondary and tertiary players trying to mask as primary players. Now, the real question comes when all those primary players are back is do those primary players play well together like DeJounte, like Zion? That's when you get into the question of, well, who needs to be traded, stuff like that. Once you see that not work. Other than that, if guys are playing off one another in concert, I agree with you. You're going to be able to score. Like the evidence is telling there's not too many defenses better than Houston and present the size challenge that Houston challenge that's out there that's going to give you that. So if you can get to the rim on them, the Pelicans have been first in the NBA in points in the paint over the last 10 games. The Rockets are second, and they have a 6-point lead on them. If you can be excellent at that with all these guys coming back, everyone's going to know how to get to the rim. And if the floor is spaced out because everyone's a threat, that just makes it that much easier. But to your point, if the Pelicans want to be a playoff team, when you start playing the Thunder and you start being game plan specific night after night, you can't rely on coming back from 25 against Kevin Durant too often. Because
to your point, I think that's part of what happened with Zion. I think the Rockets were like, okay, like we understand that he coming up, but like anytime he touched the ball, and again, he was missing some bunnies, but he saw multiple big people in front of him. So when you get game planned, it's very hard. Ask Trey Murphy last year. When you get game planned again, it is very difficult.
Right. And so for me, I view this as more answers to the test. Everyone keeps saying like, you need to move Trey, you need to move Herb, you need to move Zion. I think the way the NBA is going, you just brought up a great point as far as the Pacers, but you can do the same thing for the Thunder. Jalen Williams was out the majority of the season. They didn't lose any games. He's the second best player. Like I think the way the NBA is becoming so talented and these rookies that keep coming in, and next year with more coming and things like that, ready to contribute to winning basketball and things like that, you need more players that can score. It's not going to be have 8 and trust 7. Like, it's not that anymore. I think you're going to need 9, 10, 11 guys that you can get through the season with and then play in the playoffs as well, especially with all the injuries and things like that. And so for me, once you start seeing it like fragmented where that obviously doesn't work with that, or this obviously doesn't fit with that, or this skill set obviously doesn't fit with that, I think that's when you run into issues. Until then, I think if some team, which in previous years and previous iterations of the Pelicans, say, hey, we're going to do everything we can to stop Zion, there's no way he's getting to the rim. Well, now you have a pivot point. Now you have another answer to the test to say, fine, we're going to go this way and we're going to play this way. And that's just something the Pelicans haven't had. And so, again, it goes back to Joe Dumars' part. You're building something that you add, it's additive to. When DeJounte Murray comes back, there's a clear spot. Now, rotation-wise, that's more questions. Some person is not going to be able to play in that situation, but his skill set is easily fit into the system and the offense they're trying to run. And so from that standpoint, there's a couple non-negotiables. We talk about the defensive end. When the Pelicans play bad defense, like you saw in the first half, they're not fun. They're not a very good team. It's hard to watch. When they play highly locked in on the defensive end, just having high activity, not just steals and blocks all the time, but deflections and just knocking the ball out of, like, the small things like that. Like, you saw a play from Jeremiah Fears in the first part of the game where Josh Okogie comes off the screen, just kind of like 50%, and he goes and gets a tie up, things like that. Like, playing like that, then the Pelicans are a lot of fun, because I look at a couple things. Yeah, they're first in the paint. They're second in the NBA in the last 10 games in fast break points. And Garrett, some of their fast break decisions are atrocious. So they still have a lot of room to grow in that area. They're 19th in points off turnover. So for a team that had one guy get 8 steals and everybody else also gets steals, and you can't convert those into points and you still win the game, there's a lot of areas to improve. But if everyone can play that same style and score interest, they're going to get better in that area. And so if your non-negotiables are just playing hard on the defensive end and scoring and being athletes, all the guys on your roster fit that, right? And so how you mix and match that is sustainable depends on, to your point, who has it going last night. So that being said, Pels put on another good win, first 3-game win streak of the season. You've got a Pacers team that's limping in to the Smoothie King Center. Obviously, their season is riddled by injuries. They started the season that way with their best player being out. But what are you looking for in a game like this where you're coming off an emotional high? You need to get past it. James Borrego's like, hey, we're going to enjoy it tonight. Tomorrow we're back on the world. But it's hard sometimes as a 22-year-old, 25-year-old, things like that, to be like, man, we came back, and then move on to the next lesser opponent. What are your thoughts on the matchup versus the Pacers?
Yeah, this exactly that last part you said. Don't let this be a trap game. Done everything right during this 3-game win streak. And so it's very easy to say, hey, we beat the Rockets. We for sure could beat the Pacers. Well, the Pacers, they have been playing behind the 8 ball all season. They are just like the Pelicans, how they can sneak up on teams and catch you. The Pacers can do the same exact thing. And so come out, and this is an opportunity for you to establish, hey, like this is not a fluke. Like, this team has turned a corner. We have figured some things out. We have done some, gotten some things, corrected some things in practice. Go out there, continue to establish the paint dominance. I think that this is another team that you could, if you think you would score well against the Blazers and the Bulls, and found a way to score a whole bunch of points against the Rockets as well, you should be able to dominate the paint in this game. I think we talk about some of the guys that didn't play in the full quarter. I think nobody even talked about, like, Messi didn't even play. Like, he didn't get on the floor. Like 10 minutes. Yeah, like against a tall Rockets team. So the Pelicans are finding some kind of identity that they're saying, listen, we don't really care what you got going on. This is what we're going to do. Like, this is what our principles are, and this is what we're going to do. We're not going to adjust to you. You going to adjust to us. So this is an opportunity to kind of drill down even more into that, right? I talked about this. Sorry about that. I talked about this when the Pelicans were about to play the Mavericks, and I said it's one thing to win. It's another thing to go in and win with your game plan, with the things that you want to do, and you dictate the game, as opposed to like you got to win at the end and do all of this crazy stuff to pull a win out. Go against this Pacers team at home, back in the Smoothie King Center, where you're trying to build trying to build this fan base up and get everybody back on board with this team as they make this turn this corner. Establish your identity, get to the paint, rebound, play in pace, and establish that is what this team is going to be in and night out. And we've seen it in these last 10 games. We've seen it for sure in this 3-game win streak. You go in against this Pacers team and we look down at the scoreboard and the Pelicans are up by 20 or up by 15 and they're going into the fourth or something like that, that is the kind of game you want to establish. You don't want to get in a dogfight because then you start questioning, what was that a fluke? Did we come out and establish yourself as the better team, which they are the better team. They haven't been a better team against a lot of other teams go before the game started. They are the better team against the Pacers right now, over the Pacers. Go in and prove it. I think that is the mindset to have stepping into this game. Establish the identity. Make sure you enforce that identity. Honor the non-negotiables. And I think the Pelicans can make this a 4-game win streak.
Yeah, I look at it like this. I think the hallmark, we talk about hallmarks of good teams, right? And teams that are trying to grow into something. Don't play with your food, right? Like how many years did CJ McCollum talk about, hey, you got to win the games you're supposed to win and things like that? Again, the Pelicans are 6-22. It's hard for them to say you're supposed to win any game. But to your point, they are 6-22 by a product of lack of availability. Now, the only person out is DeJounte Murray. So if you look at the roster, or damn, I see some of the people in the comments, if you're bringing Zion and Jordan Poole off the pitch while the Pacers are bringing guys from the G League off the pitch because they barely have enough people to play, like that is a game you should win. So don't play with your food. The most impressive thing about the game versus the Blazers and the most impressive thing about the game versus the Bulls is they won by double digits. And at no point did you feel like the game was close. Like, yeah, the Bulls made a run. They made a pushback. But, like, you felt like the Pels kind of had the stiff arm on them for most of the job. The Blazers were like, oh, yeah, we're going to sit all our centers and rest this one. And so you made them pay for that by beating them up in the paint, and you beat them by 20, things like that. This is a game where if you want to show that, hey, we're turning into a different team than what we've been in the past, this is a game you need to just dominate from start to finish. Again, it's an NBA. Anyone can have a good night or things like that. But you need to start with the same energy that you left the Rockets game with. Not feel your way into the game and see where things
not how you
going.
started the Rockets game.
Yeah. You none of that. You need to start with that same energy and keep the foot on their neck, right? And in the game sooner rather than later. And again, I see some people talking about the comments. Is this Z's team? Is James Borrego trying to motivate Z and things like that? If anything, if I'm Zion at 25, I see the team starting to grow. I want to be a part of this too, right? I want. Zion hasn't had too many bad games back to back in the history of his NBA career. I know it hasn't been a lot of games, but there's not been too many games where he scores 9 points one game and then doesn't have like 20 the next game. You want to see how his response, because that's also a calling card of great players. They rarely have bad back-to-back games. And so if Zion's going and then all these other guys are going as well, that's a game that you need to dominate thoroughly and lead you into some of these games versus Suns where, again, if you look, again, you don't get ahead of your skis, but like if you look at them standings, especially them play-in standings, the Pelicans started the season horrifically, but they ain't that far back from catching some of them teams in the 10th spot and things like that. And like the Suns are one of them. So like if you can stack on this win and then go into that home and home versus Suns and you got some momentum, you got the Mavs and things like that, you can make up some ground with the momentum that you have. But the Pelicans haven't won a 5-game series in over 2 years. They haven't won 5 games in a row, haven't had a streak and things like that. In order to climb out of this belly of the beast that you're in, you're going to have probably multiple 5-game win streaks. So you starts with the games you got to win. And this Pacers game, I don't want to call it a must win, but it's one to compound on the momentum that you have. Because if you lose it, I think you take it's the one step forward, 2 steps back type thing. You're like, oh, that's another one we should have had. So with that being said, Garrett, what do you got left for the people?
As always, you never know what people are going through, so give someone a smile a day. It is time. Like these are the games that you have to win. Like you have to win this Pacers game. I know we don't want to call it a must win, but like you should win. Like you should win, and that's just that. But as always, follow myself at Garrick_Rattler. Follow my brother at Raphael_Rattler. Follow the page at NO_basketball, no E. Most importantly, subscribe to New Orleans.basketball, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.